Hello and welcome inside the scores table. Brian Haenchen and Danny Riego here with you. It is 11:48 as Danny and I finally get on the air. You are watching this at probably 9 in the morning live with everybody else. It was a wild and wacky Saturday, Danny. A bunch of teams knocked out. Crazy day. It's moving day, as you like to call it. Just a quick recap before we jump right into interviews. Number 4, Warsaw out, beaten by number 18, Northridge. Will be joined by Coach Doug Springer in a bit. Number 2, Homestead out, ousted by Norwell in a wild game. We'll be joined here by Eric Thornton in moments. You have Plainfield losing to Pike. You had Center Grove hanging on, rallying, and then hanging on for a crazy win over Franklin Central. Hamilton Southeastern moves on. What else is there? East Central is bounced by Columbus North. Roncalli's moving on. Cathedral's moving on. Those are just off the top of my head. What else you got?
In the South, Silver Creek, Jennings County, they both move on. Washington over Princeton. They move on. I'm still catching up.
Won its first sectional
in Brebeuf and Cathedral. Yep, those are the 2 Indy teams that are through.
Austin chalked off Johnstown.
Yeah, a lot of chalk in some of the lower classes that you would expect. That Culver South Bend St. Joe matchup that we were talking about with Lyles and Rowell, that went in favor of Culver.
Evansville Wrights, which mentally I still pronounce as Rips, picks off Castle for the first time in 42 years at least.
Yep.
So that's crazy. So wild and crazy night. Danny, you were watching
Lawrence Central through too.
Yep. You were watching games red zone style. I was out at Plainfield, or I was out at Center Grove versus Franklin Central, and had this game up, the Norwell Homestead game. I'll let you set the stage quickly on Homestead's or Norwell's win over Homestead.
I mean, this is the setup is this. I think I said 2 episodes ago that in the North I would take Homestead and Warsaw and comfortably lay the field, and we will have 2 coaches on that will tell me what they think of those picks. Because they did not age very well at all. But the Homestead Norwell game, unbelievable game. Could have been the game of the year. Like, it had huge swings. Homestead came out. They were up 14 at one point in time. Norwell came back. It had key sequences down the stretch where kids were just making play after play, like consecutively. And the environment. I mean, and we'll ask Eric about it. Like, Homestead Norwell always has great environments. Like 20 minutes, like right when the warm-up clock started, not an empty seat. Unbelievable environment, and those kids are so lucky to have gotten to play in that.
Game high 28 points for Vanessa Rossworm on the Norwell side of things. 3 assists for Addison Norris. For Homestead, 17 for Delaney Knoll, 12 for Maya Epps. Man, that was a crazy game. Let's just jump right in, Danny. Let's go ahead and bring on Norwell coach Eric Thornton, coming off the big win tonight. Coach, congratulations.
Thanks a lot, fellas.
Danny mentioned the environment. I'll let him get granular in the game, but just for you as a coach to be part of that atmosphere, I mean, what was that like tonight, that experience?
Well, as Danny mentioned, incredible environment. Our kids have been so fortunate the last 3 years here to play in front of some massive crowds. Our fans are they're so great. They're so loyal. They travel well. Homestead being right there in town, and I just want to give a lot of kudos to the South Side for just the type of sectional that they put on. Tori Curry, AD there. It was a tremendous environment, first class, and it was a great draw. I'm glad we got to play this game in a sectional championship. We just we're so excited about this, and it was hard. It got to the point there in the third, as Danny said, it was tough up to that point.
You and I talked, Eric, what was that, like a month ago, when you're coming off that stretch in December. You described it as the hardest stretch of your career. How did that prepare you for tonight? How did that prepare the girls for this moment when they had to come back from 14 down against the number 2 ranked team in the state?
I don't think our kids liked it. I'm glad it's not okay. It's not okay. And, you have to go through that stuff. It's what we've experienced every single year in our runs the last couple of years. You look back and you just go, I don't like it. Our kids don't like it. And, we've got to be tougher. There's a lot of tough I just thought a lot of big time plays made in the game where you just, you're at that point where if we don't step up right now and play with no fear, we've got to execute better. We've got to get to the third or fourth side of the floor, and not be in panic mode. We've just got to stay with what we do. Our defense was playing well enough. We turned them over 23 times, something like that tonight. I think we had 11. I don't know how much we got off of that on the other end, but I just know that they're really, really hard to defend against. And I thought we just hung in there defensively. And then when Vanessa makes a couple shots, you see your leader doing that, and you just continue to battle through. I think our kids just look back at those moments back in December, like we talked about. It's not fun. I don't like it. I don't want to be there again. And there's a lot of leadership on our group.
Coach, you mentioned the turnovers. How much of that is identification from the first game? You turned them over a bunch in the first matchup. One of the reasons why you came out victorious in the regular season matchup. I mean, you seem to have a way of just, getting in passing lanes on their shooters. How much of that is just familiarity just through playing them and being around Coach Parker?
Well, it's part of that for sure. Being familiar with them, being close a year ago at their place, losing by 10, and Gabby just goes for, 28, 35. I can't even remember. It was massive. And I think she missed one shot all night. And it was just literally a catch and shoot display where our wings weren't wide enough. We weren't protecting the sideline. Direct passes just rip you against teams like that. And Warsaw's had that success earlier this year where if you can't get that stopped, that's what we do. That's what we do. We don't. But look, playing the first game where Noel does not play against us, and knowing how Noel makes everybody better, plus she's really, really good. We saw Epps play more in the fourth quarter in our first game in the high post, and had a couple buckets, had some success there. Then we knew after watching Warsaw, so thankful that we have film to watch them play an attack of 1-3-1 when they are fully equipped. And as good as they were against Warsaw that night. And I know Warsaw wasn't full strength, but they're still really good. And they just move the ball with a lot of direct passes. We tried to pick up point for us. A lot of times it's half court with Vanessa. Pick up point against Homestead is not half court. It's volleyball kill line. That we don't want to get much above that. And if we do, it can't be for more than one slot to slot pass. It really can't. Because they'll just chew you up too much. But for the most part, I thought we did a good job of not letting Epps go off inside because she's so strong and athletic and quick. Our baseline, when the ball's between the circles, our baseline has to stay on top of her. When we got that done, we limited her touches. When we didn't, she got some things against us. And if that ball gets high post or low post against us, it just makes everybody better with Homestead and their shooting. And I thought we did a really, really good job in both games against them defensively. But the second game, there was more to think about with Epps in there.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Delaney Knowles. She had a tremendous first half. I mean, and the play to close it sends you into the locker room. And so now, I mean, you also got some things too, some tangible things that maybe were a little bit different. You got a Carly Mollering face guard on Macy Solfrank. Some things that maybe just kind of keep you off rhythm. What's your message? You're down 14. Noel is there. You hadn't seen her yet. She's really positively affecting the game. Solfrank, who you rely on to score, is now scoreless at the half. Now you're in the locker room. Just take us there and what your messaging was and what that mood was like.
It really had to just be about ball movement for us because it has to move. It has to move for us to be able to get gaps that we want to drive in. When it gets sticky, it works totally in favor of a team like Homestead, who's going to prevent freedom of movement. They're not letting us cut. They're not letting us attack. We're not attacking gaps hard. We're kind of just surveying things, and that's not who we can be. It just can't be a hold it basketball type of game for us to have success. And that was the message at halftime. Our defense was playing well. The turnover right before half was disheartening to to go in there down 9 when Delaney lays it up at the buzzer. And it just trying to move them forward, trying to win the third quarter. Let's get some ball movement. Let's get to that destination. We call it home. We call the rack zone there at the rim. We call it destination. And it was really hard to get there against us tonight. We knew that they were going to be very physical. We had seen that in their recent stretch of success, and that's the type of game it was. We're not great at that normally, but playing against teams like your Warsaws and your Valpos and your Snyders, and it's got to be a mentality for us rather than just a physical or athletic thing. It's just got to be what we do, and just sticking with the process. And like I said, you get some mismatches there where V can kind of hit some pull-up threes where she's coming off the bounce a little bit and finds her spot. And, she was feeling good about that. I think she had 6 of them tonight. And,
6. Yep.
Yeah. And then we get, Ashley Waldman, who hadn't gotten anything going for her throughout the game. We knew that they were on Vanessa's dribble post when they stay on our shooters. And we played a lot of dribble post stuff, including Greensburg and so on. But we knew that Homestead, based upon scout, that they were gonna come from her blind side on the double, because she can't see it. She's trying to get to we call that home base, right in front of the rim. Get to home base and kind of figure out with your pivot game where you can go. And they're rushing that, and we said that has to be recognition and communication right away.
Right.
And as soon as they did on Ashley's last shot, there finally got one to go. I'm so proud of her. V kicks it out to Addie. Addie makes a quick one more pass to the corner, right in rhythm. And Ashley said it felt good just leaving her fingertips. And now that was maturity from our team based upon this is what they're going to do. Now you still got to try to get there.
Yeah. But
we've got to recognize and move the ball quickly out of that. And Vanessa is as good as we've ever had about moving the basketball. But she's still the kid. She's still got to go get it for us. And she certainly did tonight. But she's not afraid of those moments. And I'm just so proud of her for moving the basketball there. And really happy for Ashley that she stuck that last one.
Well, and that was the critical stretch of the game. You talk about the 6 threes. The game high 28 that Rossworm had. I mean, what a statement for Indiana All-Stars. But in that key sequence, with like a minute left in the game, you get that Waldman 3 that you're talking about right now that puts you up 1. Homestead comes right back down. Ankenbrook answers with a 3 of her own to take take their own 1-point lead. And then just kind of a wild scrum. Olivia Green ends up with the basketball, and she ends up with an and 1, and you regain the lead at that point in time. So it actually tied the game at that point. But that critical stretch, Waldman and Green bookending it, that's not Norris, Solfrank, and Rossworm. I mean, just talk us through that critical sequence. This is 30 seconds left in your season.
Yeah, I mean, we're not a team that's going to catch it at the wing like Macy did and throw it down into the post, where Livy was. It was open through that scramble, like you said. It's what was there, and it's what Macy recognized. And, Livy's not your traditional post player. She's not a kid who's going to play with her back to the basket, but right there and then that was what was there, and it's great recognition on Macy's part. And really happy for Livy and knocking down the free throw coming out of the timeout. And then Ashley, like I said, didn't get anything going her way offensively all game, but she's just those are 2 role players that. Boy, when you get that from your role players in big time games like this, it takes you over the top. We had to have it.
Coach, one last one, and it really an intangible one. I just want to ask, it just looked like championship pedigree. It just looked like a group that just you never looked different at the beginning of the game, down 14 in that, that high pace scrum with 90 seconds left. It just seems like your basketball team is just cut from a different cloth when it comes to that crunch time kind of moments. How much of what we saw tonight would you dedicate to a championship pedigree or none?
Well, I think that's part of it. But I will say about this group is well, they talked in the locker room. They'd never beat Homestead. Growing up, that's a rivalry with us. We play them every league tourney, middle school, all the way up. Never beaten this group. And to beat them the first time was sweet. You know, we know what that felt like when we were one and teams are, and then they don't do a pull. And so we're getting beat multiple times, I think, through that time. But to beat them then, and then just to validate it, you know, with this group, I'm just going to give all the credit to this team, you know, because to play on the stages that they played on the last few years, and all of them were a part of it last year. V was a part of it the year before. Yeah. And now here, uncharted territory for us to do it at the 4A level. You know, I've heard several people, you know, hey, welcome to 4A basketball. Well, yeah, we've played at a lot of these types of teams the last couple of years intentionally to just go through the gamut, and that has helped us. But I'm going to give all the credit to this group because you can't. There's no way you can limit this group. You know, if they've done one thing well, they've learned from the struggles that they've been through, and they've done something about that come tournament time. And we'll have to continue to do that because Snyder is a tremendous opponent. But, you know, for us to have that experience of playing them in the situation that we played them, I think we have a lot to learn from that as well. And so we'll see if we can use that this week. And I just know our kids were talking in the locker room before the game, really want to, you know, be together for one more week. And that's what this group means to each other and to our program and to our whole community, our fans. They're just incredible. And I watched them at the end of our shoot around today, this morning, just kind of our final walkthrough. Everybody left. I just said, hey, you guys are welcome to stick around and shoot. I'll be around here. And everybody left but our 6 seniors. And so I'm just sitting there on the sideline, just kind of taking some mental pictures. This could be our last. This could be it right here. But they just find a way. So all credit to our players. What a special group, and just love them a lot. And I know they didn't want to be done.
Fantastic. Well, Eric, congratulations again. And we'll be talking again here soon, buddy.
Okay. Thanks again, guys.
Congratulations, Eric.
Thank you.
Take care. Eric Thornton with us here on the scores table. Danny, with that, we're going to bounce right over because it's getting late for everybody. We're going to bounce right over to Northridge. Coach Doug Springer joins us now. They pick off Warsaw tonight, taking out the Tigers by a final score of 63-60. Doug, we were talking before the show. You guys had a police escort going around Middlebury tonight.
Yeah, it was Goshen hosted the sectional, did a tremendous job. We had almost standing room only. It was over, 2,000, 2,500 fans there between Warsaw and Warsaw. Just an incredible atmosphere. To set the stage, we'd gotten up, I think, 6 or 7 in the third quarter, and they came down and hit a 3 to get it to 48-47 at the end of the third quarter. And as both teams go out for the start of the fourth quarter, all of the fans for both teams erupted, and you literally could feel the gym shaking. We talked to our girls about, the rivalry between us and Warsaw. When we played down there 3 weeks ago, it was an enormous crowd. We talked about how fortunate they are that they get to play in this type of atmosphere. At Warsaw, we average well over 1,100 fans at our home games here, and our crowd, our fans, really support this team. And our girl, I think they take it for granted sometimes because that's all they know, but that's not how it is everywhere, and we know that. But it was just a tremendous atmosphere there at Goshen.
Obviously, I think the best place to start with that game is Lily Skoll. 42 points, clears 1,000 points for her career. My gosh, what can you say about that kid and her performance tonight?
Yeah, she had 31 last night. She, to start it, and I know Danny is a big Cam Conley fan.
Right.
And so Cam tore her ACL at practice 2 weeks ago, had surgery on Tuesday. Just you talk about just a blow to our team. Cam is our leader. She's a 3-year starter, just has done everything for this team in terms of the leadership. But I think what our kids had taken advantage of, or had kind of taken it for granted was the fact of all the leadership that she did on the court. We talked about a player-led team. I know we talked about that. It's Cam Conley. I mean, she was doing all of our offensive calls and all of that. And so, we've had 4 games, but, we struggled against Snyder in the third quarter when things got tough because we didn't have Cam out there. Penn start the first quarter. We just didn't have her to settle us down out on the court. And then we really found at Penn, there was no one out there making calls based upon the defense. So then that kind of comes back to me. And I realized in that moment that, we were going to have to make sure that as a coaching staff, we did a much better job of preparing the kids because we ourselves took Cam for granted. But yeah, Lily has really stepped up in her absence. We've seen her become vocal. We've seen her become a major leader of this group. And, we, after that first time playing them, we did hold some stuff back that we wanted to keep in our back pocket, and we ran that tonight, but we saw some different things that they, how they were guarding us. And so we worked for 3 weeks in what we call Warsaw segments at practice. We put some offensive stuff in, and Lily, her and Zoe Yater played very, very well together. We did a lot of ISO, getting them in ISO situations, getting them both downhill. And we rebounded the basketball. Some things that we didn't do that first game that we felt like came back and didn't allow us to win. We really did a good job tonight. And we were locked in that first game, but the way that they followed through with the game plan that our coaching staff came up with, we haven't had many teams in my 22 years of coaching that have been able to do those type of things. And this group has done it pretty consistently this season.
I'm going to ask you to go a little bit deeper on that. If you look at the first Northridge Warsaw game, which was honestly, the outcome was in question late in that basketball game. You had to learn a lot from it. Conley actually guarded Bricker in that game. We had kind of guessed and hypothesized and analyzed the game kind of going into it, and that was the big matchup that we were talking about because Conley guarded Zartman the year before. Then the Bricker assignment, then you lose her. You said it was just 2 weeks ago. So you said the game plan that the staff put in. Just talk to me about that kind of week leading up. Did you have to throw some stuff away? What was Conley's input in the game plan? I guess there's just a lot. You lose Conley, who guarded Bricker. That shuffles the entire deck, Doug.
It did. And we go from 5'11" Cam Conley to Jada Walker, who is an electric sophomore point guard, but she's 5'2". Yeah. So, it really changed a little bit of our dynamic. Now, so I'll get into it. So the first time we wanted to play him straight up. And now I say that we're a switching man-to-man team. We're not going to go away from that. And so, yes, we had Cam on her, but, we were switching other girls on her. And, that allowed her to get downhill a little bit. Our whole goal was, and I know this, everybody, thought I was crazy the first time, we were willing to let Bricker get her 30, but we wanted to make sure that Zartman didn't. And honestly, that if Zartman and Bricker could combine for 30 and we could keep everybody else down, we felt pretty good. And as a team, they scored 43 points. Bricker had, whatever she had, 20, 28, 20. I think she had 28 and Zartman had 2. So we kept those to 30 apiece. We wanted to keep them under, at that point, we said 16 points a quarter or 15 points a quarter, somewhere between 14 and 15. We held them to 12, or actually we held them to 11. So all of that went in. We just didn't score, and we struggled. And as a staff, we were really frustrated with our inability to score against them because we thought that, we should have been able to. And Lily was in major foul trouble. Macy Riegsecker, our point guard, was in major foul trouble. Cam Conley was in major foul trouble. And that allowed some of those young kids to come in, and they played pretty well in those moments. And I think that gave us a huge amount of confidence going forward. So long story short, with the game plan, we wanted to bring doubles at Bricker. The first time we brought them just from their post, they run a dribble drive. So they got the dunker post down there. And so we call it cat mouse. We're going to show but recovered because we didn't want Goheen or Kaiser or whoever was down there to get some easy buckets. So we wanted Yater to show so that when Bricker was coming downhill, he saw Zoe, and we were hoping that she would use her spin move and try to get back, and that we'd have Conley right there. And she didn't. She just kept going, especially to her left, and then she got going, and we wanted to make sure we held some stuff back in our back pocket. So we've been working 2.5, 3 weeks on bringing doubles from other places, not just not from Yater, which is what we've shown really all season long. With, if you watch how we play dribble drive, we're bringing that show from that dunker spot. Yeah. So we decided we were going to come off of Kaiser, and we were going to bring Zoe off of Goheen, but then we were going to even with Neely and those guys, we were gonna bring her girl to double, and then we were zoning Yater up underneath. So she was man to man, but last night Elkhart really brought a lot of doubles. It allowed Kaiser to slip, and she got a couple of layups. So today in the walkthrough, we just changed a little bit and kind of zoned Yater up to have her kind of guard in the paint a little bit, like a 1-3, kind of like a 1-3-1 underneath there. Then let the other girls kind of go and double, especially off of Kaiser. We didn't really want to do as much off of Neely, but we ended up doing it a lot today, and we had a lot of success with it.
Yeah. The offensive side, you guys shot 65% tonight. Hank had mentioned how Lily Scholl had 42 points. You're talking about the metrics of the game, holding Warsaw into 15 and 14, which means that you guys got to get to 16 each quarter. Talk about what, I mean, you're standing on the sidelines as a coach, and I can say this as another coach. Sometimes you just catch a girl on a heater, and you just notice that you're making all the shots. Talk about maybe what changed within the game flow when you just started detecting, like, we're hitting shots and it's everybody, and Lily is getting off. So where do you go from there?
So, we wanted to we knew that they were going to take Macy Riegsecker, our point guard, away. They did it the last time because we run race in space. They wanted to slow us up. So after that game, we talked about, all right, let's inbound it. Let's get Macy 2 dribbles, kick it to Lily, and let's let her get up and go. Kind of inorganically, if that's a word, but the first time that we played, we did it one time. Yater stepped out and set a flat ball screen for Lily, which is not necessarily in our Chin offense or our Princeton. And Lily got downhill, got a foul. And so we talked, Dan Huizenga, my assistant, and I, we saw it, like, we need to kind of put this in a little bit more. And so we've had it in our back pocket. It would have worked when we played Penn. We didn't want to show it because we knew Lenny was going to see it and they would have it. So we were willing to sit on it until tonight. And Lily, I don't know how many she had off of that, of her 42, but did a really good job. I thought Yater set some really tremendous screens, and then Morgan Gorbel, a 6-foot sophomore, came in when Yater was in foul trouble and kept setting it. But then what we were expecting was them to bring a double to Lily, especially when she got hot. And so then we were diving that flat screener. We were diving her to the opposite block. And then Lily got a couple of assists, just dumps when they brought that double over.
Yeah, okay.
Especially when we started. I mean, the fourth quarter, I bet there were probably 6 or 7 lead changes, and we were just matching each other back and forth. And we had some good action off of that flat ball screen.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's a great night for your kids, great night for your team, great night for your community. I do want to ask a question on your way out of here, though, about the Warsaw kids. The last time you were on, Doug, you spoke with such reverence about your relationship with Lenny, how you feel about that 26 class over there with Bricker, Zartman, Neely. I know you're close with that program. I know you're close with those kids. That you are the author and the person that punctuated their career. I mean, it has to be almost bittersweet for you. Can you comment on that, or just tell us what's kind of going through your head from that perspective?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they are tremendous basketball players, tremendous kids off the court. This will tell you about those Warsaw seniors. So we're going through the handshake line. Zartman and Bricker stopped, said some words about what they want us to do going forward with, beating them. But then, we're all celebrating. It's probably 35 minutes after the game. Bricker comes back out in her uniform, comes up and gives me a hug and just thanks me for being able to compete and bring out the best. Our teams bring out the best in each other. You know, what kind of a kid does that to an opposing coach? And that tells you who Jocelyn Bricker is. Same with Brooke. You know, those two are Indiana All-Stars. I'm still going to say that I think Joss is Miss Basketball. I think what she did this senior year, and to really help put Warsaw on her back. And obviously every night she's getting 2 or 3 people thrown at her. I still think she's Miss Basketball. We'll see. But those 2 kids are going to be Indiana All-Stars, great representatives of Indiana, great representatives of the Warsaw program, of Coach Krebs. But more importantly, from how their parents have raised them, and Coach Parkinson from Butler texted me tonight, great win, because my son is on the practice squad there for Butler. And I just told him, despite the basketball player, Butler is getting a tremendous kid for their campus, a tremendous young lady in Jocelyn Bricker.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Doug, congratulations again. Best of luck to you guys next weekend. I'm sure I'll be in touch with you here for regional preview stuff.
Don't talk about us. That was our chip. We watch your guys' show. All the big games never included us with Warsaw, so we used it.
That was Danny's call. That was Danny's call. I wanted to put you guys on blast.
Doug, I said you were backstage when I said it. I actually said the sentence, I'll take Homestead and Warsaw and lay the field comfortably. I didn't just say lay the field. I said lay the field comfortably.
Yeah, no, and then, there's been some others of looking at Warsaw's big games and us not being included in that. And, we also took offense a little bit to, that they were looking forward to the Homestead game after the Hall of Fame. And I mean, our girls heard that. The next day they were in, and they're like, Springer, did you hear that? We're not even in that. So I know there was no disrespect by anybody in there, because obviously Homestead is on everybody's radar. But anything that you can get to get a little bit of a chip, and obviously we use that. So we appreciate you guys.
That's awesome.
Doug,
that is awesome.
That thought crossed my mind as I stood there talking to Lenny about that, and he brought up Homestead, and he's like, that's next on our calendar. I was like, oh.
Yeah, no, we heard that loud and clear. So Lily definitely had a chip on her shoulder tonight. And I think there's a little bit that she wanted to prove out there. So, and she definitely did that.
Message received in no uncertain terms, man.
Yeah, but I'll say one last thing. I'll let you guys go. I talked about the Warsaw girls. Lily Scholl is a junior all-star.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. She is one of the top juniors in the state. Her performance the last 3 years, but her performance this week, I think, solidified it. Obviously, her performance tonight did, but I'll advocate for other players when I think they do, but I'm going to advocate for my own. We had 3 all-state players in the juniors with Allie Ambers, Zoe Yater, and Lily Scholl, but Lily's definitely a junior all-star.
I don't have any say in that, but she certainly is my vote. That's actually Danny's call. So if anything goes awry, it's his fault. Just remember that. Everybody who's listening, it's his fault. Doug, thank you so much for hopping on with us.
Appreciate it.
Hey, congratulations, Doug. Great job.
Doug Springer here with us. And again, I was kidding. People take that stuff seriously. I was kidding. It's not actually Danny's fault. I mean, it is, but
no, definitely. They definitely know that it's not me. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, it's 12:30 as we're doing this, so this show is going to get wild and wacky. Before it gets too wild and wacky, that was crazy. Those were 2 of the crazier games. Just, I don't know so much in terms of results. Like I predicted Norwell would win. I didn't expect it to go the way it did. Northridge was a bit of a surprise based on history, based on the injuries that they're dealing with. Like, that was a genuine surprise and super impressive. I mean, we talked about last year. Never mind. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You take it from there.
No. So Homestead Norwell going in Norwell's favor, and then Northridge over Warsaw. The texts that were coming in from multiple different people were how wide open the North is now. And it was always wide open. It just seemingly is more because of, I don't know, maybe pundits like me just saying, anointing, Homestead and Warsaw in second and third weekend games. But there were some big winners and losers in this. And let me qualify that. Norwell's advancement it's a matchup, right? Like it seems like Homestead just doesn't really match up very well against Norwell's style of play. A lot of guarding in space. There was a lot of attention that Homestead was putting on their footwork defensively when Norwell players would get to, as Coach Eric Thornton called it, home base. We saw Homestead struggles against the odd front zone and getting deflections and getting turnovers late in that Northridge game. Just a bad matchup, and it looked as if their focus, the addition of Delaney Knoll, they were playing just with such intensity. Like Whitney Ankenbrook was playing so hard all basketball game. It just looked like a Homestead night. But Norwell is just moving on as if they were supposed to win all along. It's stunning to me, but everybody now is where I was going with that, and I'll land this thought I think you need to ask yourself before you say that it's wide open, how do I match up against Norwell's zone? Just to stay with them particularly, because you can look at Homestead as a basketball team and like them or dislike them or certain things that they do, but at the end of the day, it's a bad matchup. So how do you match up against 1-3-1 zones? If that's a system that you have had a lot of success in, then maybe it is more wide open. So that's what's interesting. But the North is on its side. It definitely is.
The mental or the team momentum on that thing was interesting because Homestead obviously coming off going into sectional, that triple overtime win over Northrop, where they came back from the brink a couple times before winning it. Crazy game there. And it felt like they're coming a lot of momentum. The Norwell side, I kind of talked about this a lot, but that phone conversation with Eric after that stretch in December, like you could tell something. And it felt magnified, I think, just because they're in 4A. They were number one and they were stuck at number one for those 2 weeks where they were getting their brains or where they were getting kicked around a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like it magnified it. But looking back, like that's the same as it was 2 years ago when I first saw them at Noblesville and they went to the state championship game and lost to Gibson Southern. It was the same as it was last year when they went and they beat Greensburg, a team that was heavily favored in that state championship game. Like that's just what Eric does, and he kind of alluded to that. And then on the other side of things too, it wasn't as public, but Doug mentioned it, that chip on their shoulder and that opportunity to send a message. And it was fascinating, like how he handled that first meeting with Warsaw and holding some things back and ready to throw some different wrinkles at them and how they approached, who they were trying to contain and all that and what their plans were and their goals. I mean, it's a really good Warsaw team that they picked off there. But yeah, just two really phenomenal teams. And it adds some flair to this 4A North bracket because that's a couple different faces in there with Norwell and Northridge getting through over Homestead and Warsaw.
Yeah, and to the Warsaw side of things, like and I know we talked about Northridge and congratulations on their sectional championship. I do want to say something about the Warsaw kind of path. They've been such a big storyline in regards to Indiana high school basketball for the last 2 seasons. That is a community that has accepted, our show. And we know that from just walking into the Tiger Den and the things that they say. Lenny's been a great partner to us. The saddest part about tonight, I would say, from Warsaw losing is, and I hate to bring it back to this, and it's not singularly on this, but like Goshen didn't have a stream. They didn't have a stream last night. They didn't have a stream tonight. And then you just get a text and it's over. Like we were supposed to see Bricker play basketball again. We were supposed to see Zartman, play basketball again. We're supposed to see that, at least last another weekend. And they didn't. And that's sports. But, the one thing that you just hate about postseason basketball, and you loved all the games tonight. There were great games tonight. Great games, super entertaining. But you hate how it just ends just like that. And there's really just no way to extend it. All these kids have been through that before, and they will turn the page. But as a fan, I think it's I think it's just sad to see it end in that way. And we couldn't at least see it with our own eyes.
That was unfortunate. You and I are texting about that. We both have thoughts on it. None of them particularly positive, or it sucks really.
About the stream,
yeah,
not who won. Yeah.
No. The stream thing was a bummer because, like, also the other side of it, it would have been amazing to have some clips and highlights of Lily Scholl going for 40+ points in an elimination game like that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you're hurting the kids by putting up barriers, by not streaming games. I've heard we were texting about different excuses, and we won't get into specifics, but it's lame and it's a bummer. Let's move on to some positive things and some more fun games, Danny.
Okay.
Real quickly though, let's wrap up the 4A North. You have Crown Point moving on with a win over Lake Central. That's a game that I wanted to just shout out quickly. I was curious to see how that one would go, but Crown Point moves on. Another one of those teams that's kind of trending in the right direction. We had their coach on earlier in the tournament. Let's move to the South and Franklin Central versus Center Grove. That was an incredible game. Like, I think that Norwell is probably the first one on the night, then maybe Northridge, Warsaw. But I mean, this game is maybe tied for second with that one in terms.
This game was awesome.
I mean, that was like a heavyweight, high-level basketball. You have Franklin Central coming out of the gate, could not freaking miss a three-pointer. Ashley Baker was unreal. I mean, that kid was unconscious she had a 4-point play, and they did everything right. They were finding open looks from outside against Center Grove's defense. They were containing Grayson Gilliard. Cannot say enough about the job that Carly Holmes did against her. Like, she was stalking her the entire way. Like, she did a great job. They did a good job doubling her. They were throwing everything they had at her, containing her. And yet at halftime, it was only a 6-point game in favor of Franklin Central. And you could just – it was crazy that it was only by that much, that they only led by 6. And the fact that I think they trailed at one point in the first half too, despite everything going well. And that's just the Center Grove way. Like, they just found contributions from so many different people. Mackenzie Pierce was huge. She had a couple of huge threes for them. Lilia Tapak, I thought, did a really good job distributing the ball. Hannah Jin had some big shots. And then also had that rebound there at the end. And then Grayson Gilliard, obviously, is the focal point of everything. But, I mean, everybody contributed. But Grayson, we talked all season about how she's evolved as a player and how she's more polished as a player. And what really stood out tonight was that at no point did she force it. And at no point did it feel like she was getting frustrated by Franklin Central keeping her in check. No, instead she was passing it around, getting it to her teammates, pulling the defense away to clear space on the other side of the floor, like doing all those little things to create opportunities for her teammates. And that was huge. And then when they needed the big shots, she hit it. And that was something that Vince Sorbonne and I were talking about after the game, Franklin Central's coach, is that Grayson this year, it's like last year it was like 50-50 on if she made those shots in those clutch moments. This year it's 100% of the time. And she had like 5 or 6 of those moments tonight where it's like, oh man, that was huge. I mean, that kid was just unbelievable. One last thing, Danny, before I throw it to you and we start getting a little more granular on this thing. She did exit late in the game for a little bit of a stint. Looked like her ankle got twisted up. She seemed to be doing okay after the game, got it retaped, came back into the game. There was no way they were going to keep her out. She seemed to be doing okay after the game. But yeah, that was a scary moment when she went down and was grasping at that lower body. It's like, oh shucks, what happened? But fortunately, she was able to walk off on her own power, came back into play, didn't seem much worse for the wear after the game. But yeah, just a phenomenally entertaining game.
And that is, I would encourage everybody to go back and watch the stream and go watch the fourth quarter. Like Grayson Gilliard in the fourth quarter, I think she scored the first 6. They trailed by 5 going into the fourth quarter. So this was not like, this is the undefeated, one of the South favorites, Center Grove Trojan team on the ropes. And Gilliard just erased that lead almost instantaneously by herself, just comes out there. The ankle, you could have heard a pin drop in that place. And then when she came back to, one of those cool, like standing ovations, and she enters the basketball game. When she was in, by the way, little nuance here. She drew a charge against Duvall. One that you can see on the stream was not agreed with by the Franklin Central faithful, but she draws the charge nonetheless, or not draws the charge, but draws the offensive foul on Duvall nonetheless in a very physical battle inside the paint. Center Grove switches everything. Very interestingly, Stuck ran out there. She had to play 2 defensive possessions. One was on a switch. She ends up on Duvall, draws the foul. The second time, Stuck didn't want her switching. So he said, because she had such success guarding Duvall in the previous possession, go guard Duvall again. And she actually stayed home in the final possession when Franklin Central was trying to get a score to extend the basketball game. Just kind of just one of those moments that you look back, and it was just really, really cool for the whole Center Grove community to really realize. I think everybody that was there really saw something special tonight in that fourth quarter by Grayson Gilliard.
The thing that really stands out for Center Grove too, beyond Gilliard, was just Center Grove's response to the big moments. Like, there were a couple neck break moments where it felt like Franklin Central had landed the kill shot and was ready to take out the undefeated Trojans. There's a big 3 late in the game, or late in the third quarter, I know for sure. There's another moment there after Gilliard ties the game at 41. They give up 3 offensive rebounds in a row, and Washington, the freshman, Journey Washington, who started to play really well late in the season for Franklin Central, puts it back up 51-43 or 43-41, and suddenly it's like, uh-oh, now it's going to start spinning again the other way because Gilliard missed a 3-pointer. Well, then Gilliard gets a steal and score. Duval answers that. Again, it's just like, oh, here we go again. And Center Grove responds with a 7-0 run that's bookended by an Ella Sprong 3 and Haley Wagner on a fast break off of Center Grove steal.
Yeah, that was that no-look pass that Tapak had. That was a really, really sweet. Yeah, they went on a 4-0 run when Gilliard was on the shelf or getting taped up, which was really impressive. And that really speaks to the next point that I wanted to get to when talking about Center Grove. You want to hear a crazy statistic about them? They have had 8 players that have hit a 3 this season. 8. Every single one of those 8 players is shooting above 33%, which we call the line of demarcation for good 3-point shooting in high school basketball. Every single one of them. So what Coach Sabone is saying, what Hank is saying, like how they just hit big shots, that's what they did. Like, that's what they do. They all year they've just hit big shots. You mentioned the Ella Sprong 3. That one was a monster. And then the Mackenzie Pierce 3s in the first half, I think those were monsters.
They don't win that game, by the way, if she doesn't hit those. I think they get run out of the building.
I totally agree. To your Hannah Jin quote too, I would also say I thought she was really good on the defensive side. She must have had 5 or 6 deflections at all critical times. That many of them led to steals and turnovers and changes of possession and things like that. That kid, when Stuck was on here before, kind of celebrated what she brings to that basketball team. Tonight was definitely no exception. But how about the young kids at the line going like, what was it? 8 for 9 or 7 for 8 in the last 90 seconds of the game. Lilia Tapak and Haley Wagner step up to the line. Look, these are kids, like their second leading scorer at Center Grove averages 8 points per game. But the thought that that isn't by design of their scheme is another thought. Those kids are plenty capable, and when they get their opportunities and it's their time to just kind of create and hone their big game DNA, these kids step to the line and they knock free throws down. 7 of 8 for anybody is good. 7 for 8 for kids that are playing in their first sectional championship game for an undefeated team against Franklin Central, when you have to have them as young kids, is something totally different. So Center Grove won 55-50. Gilliard will get the headlines because of the ankle, but that was a true team win.
Exceptional. I love this, by the way, for Hannah Jin. Stuck pointed out that she played for an undefeated JV team as a freshman, played varsity the past 2 seasons, started last year, attempted all of 5 field goals, or 4 field goals, excuse me. She attempted 4 field goals as a starter last season and played the second most minutes on the team. She gets the clinching offensive rebound. Center Grove missed one of those free throws, and the rebound took a weird careen off to the side. And Jin just freaking throws her body at it. She said she just kind of blacked out, just get the ball at all costs kind of thing. lands on it. I think Center Grove either gets a timeout or it's a tie ball. Either way, they retain possession, and that's ball game. Because at that point, they're able to push it out to 2 possessions, and with how they're converting free throws, they just weren't going to miss. So a phenomenal play by her, and Stuck said that was kind of the epitome of her in the past 4 seasons. And I mentioned it in my story from that game too, but I love that Stuckmeyer, when I talked to him about the depth as a way to get into talking about Pierce and Sprong and Jin and all those other girls, he started with the kids on the bench. Seniors Mia Mann and Anna Carr, and then Kennedy Kemper and underclassmen, like the kids who don't play at all, the ones that are forgotten and not really ever talked about among the 12. And he talked about their role and how they're like coaches on the sideline. And it was really cool. He said they're over there on the sideline talking through their position groups about things. Like everybody's fully engaged. Everybody's fully bought in. But yeah, that performance tonight by Center Grove was that was more impressive than the HSE game, honestly, because they had to score. They had to weather the storm. Like that game had so many different elements to it. And it answered some, not like big questions, but some questions that kind of lurk in the back of your mind about this team. How can they score? What happens if another team comes out hot shooting, like they did? What adjustments do they make? And they did such a good job of adjusting to slow down Ashley Baker a little bit, who was phenomenal. We'll talk about Franklin Central here in a second. But, I mean, Center Grove checked a lot of boxes now heading into that regional against Pendleton Heights.
I wouldn't want to play them.
No, absolutely not. On the other side of things, Franklin Central was really good tonight. That was one of their best performances of the season, I would imagine. We mentioned at the top, defensively against Gilliard, they still held her under her season average for points. I thought the defensive game plan was well executed. They were playing hard consistently the entire way. Ashley Baker, like I said, was phenomenal. Anaya Dowdy hit some massive shots for them. The freshman stepped up. You kind of saw what the future is for this Franklin Central program. And they're going to have one last go at it with this junior class. But, I mean, that team is so stinking talented. They're one of the most talented in the state, I would argue. But I thought they had a great game plan. I thought that they executed at a high level. It just late in the game, just a couple little slip-ups. But it was mostly more just a credit to Center Grove and what they did versus what Franklin Central didn't do. At least that's how I would argue it.
Yeah, we're not done with this sectional matchup and this rivalry for sure. You mentioned a lot of Franklin Central players that stepped up. Carly Holmes also, you mentioned her on the defensive side. She hit, I think, 3 big threes tonight. The one thing about Franklin Central tonight that I was really impressed with was just their ability to just not go away when they were down 2 possessions. You mentioned that, and I think it's such a important point that I think I'm going to repeat it. They would come down and get a basket down 2 possessions that would make Center Grove change their strategy in the following possession. They have to be a little bit more aggressive, things like that. But the shots that they were making, the degree of difficulty, these are not just defensive breakdowns by Center Grove. Stuck would definitely disagree with me, but I think a lot of these shots are just big time shots by big time kids. And I think the one thing that we all need to remember is that you can learn a lot about these sectional games and how to win them in losses, and those lessons do carry over year to year. I am not surprised that this was a close game at all. And I am not surprised that Franklin Central hit big shots, and I won't be surprised when they're right back in the same spot next year as well.
Yeah. And I love that you mentioned that too, about you can learn a lot from these sectional losses, because that's something that Sorbonne and I talked about. And it's like this Center Grove this year in this game is something that he can point to with that group and be like, hey, this is attainable. Like what they're doing. Like Franklin Central has enough talent to run the table next year. They had enough talent to run the table this year. And obviously losing Riley Hatari at the beginning of the year hurt a lot. And I think Franklin Central deserves a lot of credit, probably even more credit than it's given, for finding ways to continue to be successful and win some games despite losing your point guard that early in the season.
Yeah.
And kids stepping up into different roles. Baker's one of them. Holmes is another one. Washington Dowdy, all these kids stepping up, finding different roles. And it took some time for them to figure things out. But there in the sectional, you kind of saw them figuring it out, putting the piece together, everybody settling into their roles. Should also mention, I mean, they took it to a good Decatur Central team on Friday to come into that Center Grove game. I thought that game was going to be competitive, and they saw to it at the very outset that it was not. So credit to Franklin Central for a good season. I think the future for them is extremely bright. But on the other side, I mean, Center Grove, like on a night when a couple powerhouses fell and they were on the brink, instead they battled back and find a way. And that has some massive implications on a variety of things. But for right now, the focus is obviously on the state tournament as they move on to face Pendleton Heights.
Yep.
Let's see, Danny. Pike versus Plainfield. I have audio from Marley Jeffers. If we want to hear from Marley following their win over Plainfield, gives us a chance to breathe.
All right, here is senior Marley Jeffers. Pike wins 71-53. Marley, your guys' defense was excellent tonight. How important is that to your success this season?
I think that's just what we work on in practice every day. That and our grit and our willing to win everything. So I think that's just a big success for us to win.
You've won 3 of these now, sectional titles, and chanting a three-peat at the end of the game there. How's that sound to you? I mean, how nice is that to hear?
It's an amazing feeling to be with this group and win 3 successful times. I think it's just overcoming for us and becoming a tradition for us, so it's great.
You guys were 1 point away last year from making the state finals. How much did that kind of drive you guys in the offseason to, maybe get back to that point this year?
100%. I think that's just our will to work, and it showed us that it takes more than just being out here, and it takes more than putting in the work in games or in practices. It's outside what we do. So I think everybody on my team, everybody in my court knows how to work, and we're having the grit to continue on. So, yeah.
You guys have such great depth. You're able to run so many people out there. In a game like this, how important is that to maybe wear them down a little bit?
For sure. I think it's a huge goal for us. I think every day in practice, our goal is to get better and just to work everybody down to where they can't work anymore. I think our goal is just to make sure that no one else can beat us and we're unbeatable, and make sure that everybody else looks worse than us.
Thanks.
That was Marley Jeffers following Pike's win over Plainfield. An impressive win for Pike, which moves on to face Lawrence Central in their regional championship game. Plainfield season comes to an end. I'll have a little bit more on Plainfield here Sunday, or probably as you're watching the show, I'll hopefully have that story up by then about Plainfield and what they overcome. But yeah, Pike moves on, setting up the showdown with Lawrence Central. Looking forward to that one. Let's shift over to Sectional 8, Danny. And
just real quick on Pike. So the Malia Evans hits a 3 at the end of the first quarter. Devine gets a steal at the end of the half, finishes it out. At the end of the third quarter, they get another buzzer beater 3 by Sanaya Smith. Like they just keep coming at you, but they close at the end of those frames. Each one of those is with a 3, at least a 5 or 6 point run. The Devine steal, a 4-point run. I mean, those are little not runs, but swings. And those swings, when you add them up at the end of the basketball game, you look at one of the reasons why you win. It's because you played the last possession really well. And that is a mark of a team that is typically executing very well, coached very well, on the same page, and understand little things too, like time and score situations. So just something that, we talk so much about all these teams that you just try to have something new. That is something that I thought stood out from the Pike game tonight that I think they can hang their hat on moving forward.
Sectional 8, Hamilton Southeastern 50, Carmel 34. I know that HSE pulled away late, but Carmel held its own there. Like, they were within a couple possessions, it seemed like, a lot of the way, at least going into the fourth quarter. But yeah, Hamilton Southeastern did what everybody kind of expected them to do, and they're moving on to the regional championship.
What's silly about this game? I made another comment in the last episode about how Bella Ramsey affects rebounding, and you can't crash to the offensive glass. I actually went back and watched the first quarter of this game to see what HSE was doing in change of possession if they were sprinting people back, and they were. Stidham was sprinting back, Orm was sprinting back. They took away one of the weapons that Carmel had, but on the other side, I talked about how it makes Carmel a better rebounding team. The first quarter was owned and really affected by the offensive rebounding of HSE. They got I think 3 consecutive possessions where they got a second look at it. And I don't have the exact points off of turnovers, but it wasn't 0. Like like leading to threes and leading to big plays. So that comment that I made also didn't age very well. Interestingly, HSE did kind of change what they do defensively a little bit. They started to switch a little bit more tonight. Now, we had talked about how we expected, because their ball pressure was so good on Tuesday and Friday night, that they were going to extend a lot of ball pressure on the Carmel guards. Abby Orm, there was a early possession where she forced a turnover because of her ball pressure. Ant Green forced another turnover. It was an over and back. They were really trying to get into the Cardinal guards and really kind of pressure them. We saw that, and their execution, their identification of that and their execution of that, I think, was spot on. But HSE was just HSE. On a night where, Homestead goes down, on a night where Warsaw goes down, on a night where Center Grove is on the ropes, here's HSE just making light work of Sectional 8. Like, these are good basketball teams with really good players. And there was never a HSE's on the ropes text coming in. It was like, yeah, it's 12, or yeah, it's 14, or yeah, it's this, or yeah, it's that. They look really, really good in the most, I don't want to say boring kind of way, but in a way that's, I mean, how do you have KK Holman, and how are you the Sectional 8 champ, and you're almost kind of flying under the radar? It is wild how much they just rolled through this sectional. It's wild to me.
It is. It really is. And that sets up a showdown with them and McCutcheon. So you have Lily Graves versus KK Holman next Saturday. That'll be up at Case Arena, where HSC season came to an end last year. So that'll be a fun game. A couple other ones of note, Danny, we'll breeze through. Let me know where we want to pause in the chat. But you had Pendleton Heights 66, Greenfield Central 49. Let me pull up a text here from Nick Rogers. We were texting about this game just a little bit ago. Ada Hupp for 31 points and a bunch of rebounds. He lost count. Liv Jones had 22 points. Riley Shellhammer played her second game. She had 18 in the first game. She had 16 tonight, 14 of them in the first half. And then Jones and Lee locked her down after halftime, according to Rob Hunt, who was covering that game. Really impressive showing by Pendleton Heights. I'm fascinated to see how the Ada Hupfer of it all matches up against Center Grove. That'll be something that we get to dive into here over the coming days. But congratulations to the Arabians for moving on. Greenfield Central returns Izzy Silcox next season, so they'll be good for next season. I'm excited to see where the Cougars go. Mention Lawrence Central over North Central. My theory of the rust turned out to be false, as Lawrence Central won 68-51. So I was close on that. Talked about Pike Plainfield, Bloomington South.
Hang on, let's go back to Lawrence Central real quick. Not only did they make light work of that sectional the way that HSE did of 8, but like the first 4 possessions were all threes. Like, it was 12-2, and it wasn't who you think. Nia McKenzie, nothing but net. Hyatt. Now I think, and it's 12-2, and Lawrence Central moving on for the match against Pike. It was impressive.
That is vintage Lawrence Central, by the way.
It is, isn't it?
Just like
they're scary. They're scary, man. They're good.
Big congratulations too to Anaya McKenzie, 1,000 career points tonight.
Let's go.
Good for Anaya. That kid's a workhorse, that one. This one, the winner does not surprise me, because, again, I think I picked the winner of this one correctly. The margin did. Columbus North 40, East Central 28. 12-point game there. I don't think that there was a stream there, but
there was not.
Interesting final score there. Floyd Central 52, New Albany 28. They move on. Wrights, like we mentioned, they end the 42-year losing streak against Castle, 46-45. Culver Academy, St. Joseph. Heritage Christian moves on. We have some highlights from that game that we can run if we wanted to talk about that game. Good season for Triton Central. A disappointing end. They came back down, I think it was like 14 or 15 points to give Heritage Christian a run for its money. They got to within a possession late, but weren't quite able to break through. I know that there was some controversy over an intentional foul call late in the game that seemed to tilt things. I've seen the play, and it was a judgment call, I suppose. But that clearly had an impact and influence on the end of the game. Seems like you have thoughts. Go ahead.
I don't have thoughts. I mean, I don't know. She had 2 arms wrapped around her. I mean, you guys will, I mean, I don't know if it's actually going to be in the highlight package. Just 2 arms wrapped around her. I wasn't there for game flow. Right. And so I think it's always really dangerous to have a strong opinion on a game without knowing, like, if it was chippy, if there were warnings, if there were hard fouls in the possessions leading up to it. There's a lot that go into that. So it is very difficult to form an opinion based on 1 4-second clip. But in a vacuum, in that spot, that's a very difficult call for Triton Central to have to swallow in that moment.
I think it's a 2-point game at that point late. Yeah, it's a tough call to make, but Heritage Christian moves on. I mentioned this
Yeah.
before. I mentioned after Wednesday. That's a dang good 2A team. Like that's
Really
a
is.
really Heritage Christian team that they have over there. And Triton Central, tip of the cap to Mary Rose Felling on a phenomenal career. It's a bummer she could never get out of that sectional because I think that kid she's one of those kids who do special things at the next level. But I think one of my favorite moments from this show so far was just how glowingly she spoke about her teammates going into that Eastern Hancock game. And then those were the exact teammates that helped lift them to the big win over Eastern Hancock, their first one in 7 tries. So I thought that was pretty cool. Kudos to them on a great season and for moving on. Connorsville takes down Delta 56-45. Connorsville, Danny, is another one of those teams I don't want to see in the postseason on the other side of that bracket because they have been playing some really good basketball of late. Like they are surging. And it feels like they're just kind of getting into that peak of their season.
Yeah, they're complete too. I mean, they play both ends, but they are a team who, when I saw them around the holidays, they all, and then seeing them this week, it just looks like a completely different basketball team. But yeah, I mean, look, when you have the athleticism of Bennett and you have the length and the athleticism of Bottomley, they're going to match up against anybody that they have to face the rest of this tournament.
That's going to be really good. Cathedral moves on with the win over Addicts, and Roncalli moved through with the win over Indian Creek. That sets up for the Roncalli Cathedral showdown, and that one is going to be in Greencastle right ahead. And guess what that's leading into, Danny? Pike versus Lawrence Central. So we get the battle of the two 3A Indy schools, followed by the battle of Marion County. You have to go all the way out to Greencastle, a place that I've never been to before, but have been really wanting to check out next Saturday. That is going to be excellent entertainment.
Oh, that's really cool. That is really cool.
Great doubleheader. So you have that one there. Any other games, Danny, that you were wanting to get to or anything else that jumped to you off the screen? We talked about Brebeuf getting their first sectional championship in a while. Northview over Edgewood. Jennings County over Greensburg.
Yeah, there you go.
That sectional championship could not be any happier for her. Obviously bummed for Greensburg. But on the Jennings County side of things, Molly Ernstis and Christie get that sectional championship for Jennings County. It's been a long, long time coming. Not since 2005 has that group advanced out of the sectional.
Yeah, so they won 65-47. So they beat Greensburg, who's a very good basketball team, very well coached, in very convincing fashion. So let me pause here and say, okay, you don't know anything about the game. Jennings County wins 65-47. You might expect Molly Ernstis probably went for 37 on 8 with 8 threes or something.
That's actually what I assumed.
No, man, it like I was getting texts about it. Like I think at one point in time after the third quarter, Molly Ernstis had 8 points. She was in the middle drawing double teams and throwing it to her teammates in Jennings County, and they were making shots and making plays. And that is why they're moving on. I mean, again, we talked about it with a lot of different players that just want to make the right play. How easy would it have been for the Lawrence, Kansas commit Molly Ernstis to just say, you know what, it's a sectional championship and this is my last one and we haven't had one in forever, years or whatever. I'm going to go out there and do it. And she had 2 people draped on her and she drew all the attention and she threw it out. It was not what you would typically expect. I would suspect that their defense also, this was again, another game without a stream. And so, we're just doing this from people who were there and trying to explain to us what happened. And we're trying to bring it to you as best we can. Everybody, we're sorry about this, but, there's just no context to it, but I think when Molly had 8, I think Larison had 6. So you immediately look at it and you're like, okay, Molly has 8, Larison has 6. I mean, you would think it's just a really like low scoring, grungy game. Just without any context with outside of statistics, we can't say much more other than the fact that Jennings County, and it'll segue me into the next basketball game, will play Silver Creek, who was trailing. It was trailing quite a bit tonight to Madison. I did have a brief text exchange with Scott, in the morning, and he knew it. Like, he's like, Madison's tough. Like, they're difficult matchup for us. They're going to present us a lot of problems. They knew. And this was also a game that it had a stream, but I didn't have audio. I actually didn't know what was happening. It actually wasn't a video. It was just the running score. I gave it one of my screens for a while, and it was just one of those games that it remained very, very close. The one thing that I will say about Silver Creek collectively about Friday night semifinal game against Charlestown, which was a very monster game, and tonight's sectional championship, was they are doing their damage with Brooklyn Wren and Emma Shane. Okay. If you look at the box score, go look at the box score from Friday night's game at Charlestown. I believe that there were 4 points, scored by a Silver Creek player not named Emma Shane and Brooklyn Wren.
Wow.
Those kids, Scott was on here talking about how Brooklyn just keeps playing better and better every game. I echoed those thoughts because that's what I see on film. Those 2 kids are dominating these games. Like, they just have to be dominating these games. Tonight, though, they won by 10. And who did they get 10 points from? They got 10 points from one of those X factors that Scott Shane was talking about in Jocelyn Chesser. And I think it was like on 4 of 6 shooting. One of the tweets that was kind of live tweeting from the game was talking about how there was a lot slower pace to the fourth quarter. I can only imagine that was leveraging some of the success that Chesser had, or even led to the success that Chesser had. But Shane and Wren being the only 2 double-figure scorers on the first night, and then joined by Chesser with 10, you might think that Silver Creek is in trouble. But these 2 kids just seem to be playing at such a high level. So Silver Creek in Jennings County, Scott Shane was on here talking with reverence and admiration for what Molly Ernstis does. Well, the good news is that he gets if he enjoys her so much, he gets to watch her on film all week.
If you like
so
her so much, player, yeah, that'll be great. By the way, Madison, just a really good team. Like, they popped up a lot for players of the week, so I started paying a little bit more attention to them because Juliana Davis and Mylan McQuarrie both had phenomenal finishes to the season. Juliana Davis, I think, set the school's program's all-time scoring record.
She's a great player.
Late in the season, finishes with over 1,200 points, close to 1,300 points. I'd imagine she got to 13 tonight. Like, just great season for her, great career for them both there at Madison. Couple 2A scores of note. Lapel's moving on. They're going to face Rensselaer Central. Rensselaer Central grinded one out over Benton Central 33-25. I didn't have eyes on it. I kind of just peeked in on the score on that one. Whitco versus Eastside. That's a rematch from semi-state last year. That one's happening. We talked about Heritage Christian. Monrovia moves on. They beat up on University. And
Eastside is a team that traditionally has played with pace. Admittedly, I haven't gotten into the film study on Eastside yet, but I have on Whitco. If you listened to the show last time, I talked about how Whitco is a full court trapping man team. We'll have to check on the health status of Kyra Lowe. That does affect things in regards to how much athleticism that they can play with. But if it is in fact Whitco and Eastside still is playing with pace and shooting a ton of threes, that game is going to be fantastic. It's just going to be a fireworks show. So I'm very excited for that one. I'm glad that chalk happened there.
North Knox pulled away from Linton Stockton 55-46 in that Eastern Green sectional. So North Knox avoids the trap and they move on. Those were the only scores, Danny, that jumped out to me. Class A, I think, mostly went chalk. I know, no surprise here as I scroll through. Is there anything else you want to talk about, or any other games that you saw that?
Yeah, Washington avenged the Princeton loss. Looked like they got a double-digit victory against Princeton. They had lost earlier in the year to them, and I am going to put both of us on the spot and tell you that I don't have any idea who they play. Who does Washington play now?
I will find out here right now. Real quickly, too, we should shout out Lanaya Will, set the state all-time record, we believe. I didn't want to forget that. Congratulations to Lanaya. The plan was to have Rob Hunt on, actually, to brag on Lanaya a little bit, too, with us. But just with everything, all the chaos that happened, we pivoted away from Rob. We'll get Rob on here soon to talk about Lanaya and just what he's seen from her and her development. over the course of the season. But just another phenomenal accomplishment from Lanai Wills, who should be an Indiana All-Star. I think should be the small school representative for Miss Basketball this year. Washington versus Evansville Central, by the way, 21-4.
I was going to say, I knew that was Central. So, okay. So Maddie gets the second weekend and it's against Washington. That's good. There's a few people that might go to that game.
The regional pairing or the regional slate next Saturday is phenomenal across all 4 classes. Like, there's going to be some really fun ones. Down in Class A, you have Borden versus Orleans. You have rising Tinley team from our neck of the woods taking on Trinity Lutheran. Heritage Christian Union County. I just saw that one, so I shouted it out. That looks like Heritage Christian will be favored in that one. But yeah, it's gonna be a fun Saturday of basketball. I already know where I'm gonna go. I'm sure Danny will be bouncing around as best that he can. But yeah, so the plan for regional week, I think we'll do 2 shows like we have done the past couple of years. We'll have 1 show for 3A and 4A, another show for A and 2A, and yeah, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm tired. I hope everybody's well rested. I hope you have a great Super Bowl. And yeah, we thank you all so much for watching. We'll talk to you again here in a couple days.